Even though I've been taking a break from Final Fantasy XIV, I've still kept up with what the community has been talking about. One thing I've noticed are a few discussions around how little content has been released since Dawntrail came back out in July. Now, most of these discussions seem to be centered around the post-Dawntrail updates, given that we're only in patch 7.1 and it is January. But I find myself wondering, is it truly so bad that we're not drowning in new content? I definitely understand the gut reaction, especially if you look at everything that's been released in the last 6 months since Dawntrail launched. If you aren't a hardcore endgame player who has no interest in the Minstrel's Ballad Trial, Jade Stoa Unreal, or the new Cloud of Darkness Savage Difficulty Chaotic Raid, here's what you've had added. There are 7 new main story quests, 1 Alliance raid, 1 side story mission, 1 dungeon, 1 allied society, 1 custom delivery, 1 quest per crafting role, and 1 Hildebrand quest. There have been a bunch of quality of life improvements too, and no doubt the huge size of Dawntrail itself is meant to hold people over for some time. And I do agree, despite being away from Dawntrail, I could probably complete the vast majority of this new content in a single weekend. But is that really a bad thing? Yoshi P has said before that he doesn't want this game to be a full-time job. And for everyone who doesn't exclusively play it, this seems like it should be a good thing. The game's slower release pace means you can step away, try other games, and take a break without falling too far behind. That's not something a lot of other MMOs or grinding games offer. Games like World of Warcraft or Ark, or basically any online CCG like Hearthstone or Gacha game, tend to demand more consistent play to keep up. And it seems that Square Enix is deliberately avoiding this approach. I will admit that while I recall reading about this frustration in a few different Reddit threads or on social media, I can't actually manage to find the specific examples, so I hope I'm not making someone up just to be mad at. But it is worth reminding people of the context here. I have 2,285 hours in Final Fantasy XIV, and I am still buried under the sheer number of things to do. I'm just now starting the Allied Society reputation grind. Most of my combat jobs are still nowhere near level cap. I'm still working on custom deliveries and shared fates, and I'm only halfway through Eureka. I haven't touched Bozja, and I've never even glanced at Ishgardian Restoration, despite having all my crafting classes at 90+. The reality is that the game offers such an overwhelming variety of content that it's virtually impossible to complete everything, unless you're one of those rare players who's invested thousands of hours and made it their mission to finish absolutely everything. For the vast majority of players, there's always something left to do, whether that's old relic grinds, mount collection, or side content. I feel like what people are actually mad at is the fact that most of the meaty content added so far has been targeted at the highest level players. Naturally, that is only a small percentage of the player base. Hardcore endgame content like Savage Raids or Unreal Trials cater to players who crave a high level of mechanical difficulty. But that leaves everyone else feeling a bit left out if they aren't interested in that kind of challenge. Again, I understand the thought process. Why didn't they better balance the releases? Why do we have to wait for things that more players would actually enjoy? Personally, rather than being angry or disappointed, I'm just indifferent. But I do get why it frustrates some players. All I can really do is recommend you take advantage of the time to either A, catch up on the thousands of hours of content already in the game. Go back, finish old quest lines, level alternate jobs, or dive into those side activities that you never got around to. There's no shortage of things to do, that's for sure, and one of these days I genuinely want to complete every yellow quest in the game. Or B, try some other games. There are hundreds of MMOs, grindy games, and live service titles that you'll likely enjoy but never gave a chance. A bunch of them are even free to play. Heck, Warframe just added romance, like that's wild. But one of the best things about Final Fantasy is how little fear of missing out, FOMO, it creates compared to others. Aside from PvP seasons and certain time-limited events like the quick seasonal quests, nearly all of the game's content remains permanently available. That's honestly a stark contrast to many other games where players feel constant pressure to keep up with everything going on, getting the exclusive rewards or the rotating content that doesn't stick around if you don't complete it in time. I've talked about it before, but in Destiny 2, entire expansions and storylines have just been removed from the game, which obviously creates a huge amount of FOMO for players who miss those experiences. And even quality gacha games like Genshin, Honkai, and Zenless Zone Zero all heavily rely on banner, event, and currency FOMO. It's easy to forget that in Final Fantasy, even older seasonal rewards return through vendors and MOG station sales, ensuring people who missed out have a chance to obtain them later, which really helps me have a more relaxed approach to playing the game. I can take a break without worrying that I'll miss something major. And when I come back, everything will still be there, waiting for me. Even my house, since demolition seems to be paused perpetually these days. That lack of FOMO is intentional. Like I said, the dev team have repeatedly emphasized that they want this to be a game you can enjoy at your own pace. And whether you're a hardcore raider or a casual player, you can engage with it on your own terms. And in the end, if you're someone with thousands and thousands and thousands of hours who has managed to do everything in the game and just needs more, then congrats, you've achieved something that most players never will. But just like those hardcore raiders that they're complaining about, you would be a small elite group. I really do think the downtime between major patches isn't really a flaw, it's a feature. It gives us time to explore, experiment, and even step away for a bit without falling behind. And it does definitely ensure that when the next big patch or expansion arrives, you're ready to return refreshed and excited, and not burned out. And honestly, that's one of the things that sets the game apart for me. Now, if you excuse me, I have some catching up to do. If you want to support the channel, one of the best things you can do is free, and that is just to leave a like, comment with even a single emoji. YouTube loves engagement. Or answer this video's question. What do you think about the game's content release balance? Is there too little? Or is the break nice? If you want to financially support the channel, chip in a little extra, there's a Patreon linked in the description below, but no pressure as always. For now though, I think that's it. I'll see you next time.